I have never understood the obsession people have with Dogman. As an eyewitness myself, I don't think it's entertaining in any way, shape, or form. It's downright terrifying. And when you add in the fact that if you decide to share your encounter, you will come under the scrutiny of hundreds of people, there is truly no incentive to even talk about it. When I reached out to James, my primary concern was the safety of my wife and young son. The concern was not from dealing with Dogmen, but the people, the crazy people who take this to the extreme. So let me say this. I'm sharing this with you not because I care what you think or if you believe I'm credible. And I totally agree with James that credibility in this little thing is fluid and based on opinions and not fact. However, I worked in law enforcement for 22 years, retired, and bought my dream home. The town I'm in is not rural. It's on the outskirts of a major city here in Arkansas. However, our land butts up to a river and a national forest. At the time I was purchasing it, I was thinking that it would make for good hunting, fishing, and hiking. Never did I think that I was literally buying trouble. We closed on the land and started the process of building our home, and all was well with no signs of anything strange. While the home was being built, my wife and I stayed in our 2-bedroom house, which was closer to the city but outside the danger zone for the criminals and gangs here in Arkansas. Life was fantastic for us. I felt like I was truly a blessed man. Fast forward, we move into the new house, and the first freaky thing that happens is one night I'm in the kitchen. To paint a picture for you, the wall facing outside when you are in our kitchen is all glass, with these huge sliding doors. I'm in the kitchen and I see what looks like a full-blown Indian man walking across the backside of our house dressed in tribal garments. This guy has no shirt on and a war bonnet, feathers and all. He has leather pants on and he is barefoot, just walking in plain sight. So I rush outside, and when I get close, he just vanished before my eyes like smoke, drifting away. That was the first strange thing that I saw, then it just got progressively worse. What was strange was that at first all the activity seemed like it was focused on me. To give you a timeline, for the first year it was just weird stuff that I personally was witnessing. For example, one night I'm out back prepping the riding mower in the shed, when I hear what sounds like men running up on the shed. You could hear them talking and you could hear the footsteps coming in my direction. So I grab a sledgehammer and head out the front door of the shed, and there is no one around me. What made that night extra spooky was the fog that rolled in at the same time I started hearing them. It came from the woods, no wind blowing at all, just this dense fog low to the ground. And then the hair stands up all over my body and the fear kicks in, the adrenaline starts to pump. My body is sensing danger. I'm all too familiar with that sensation. It's the same feeling you get when you have a car pulled over at 2 a.m. and there are 3 passengers. The plates come back with warrants and you just know this is dangerous. You know that feeling, that sense of danger. That is what I felt in that moment. So I decide that I'm going inside for the night. Not out of fear, but out of caution. It was a few days after hearing those men running outside and not seeing anything at all that I started to experience stuff inside the house. Again, my wife was experiencing nothing. It was just me. Looking back on it all, after talking to Dark Waters, it makes sense that I was the initial target. As he explained to me, when it comes to spiritual attacks, Mark chapter 3, verse 27 in the Bible is how they start. No man can enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he will first bind the strong man, and then he will spoil his house. Back then, I had no clue that this presence was in the process of trying to bind me into fear so that it could take over my house. I was just going along with life. Next, my wife and son are away at her mother's house, and I decide to watch TV and sleep on the sofa. Well, I fall asleep and I feel like I'm moving. When I open my eyes, the sofa has been moved 10 feet across the carpet. I can see the drag marks on the carpet, and now I'm starting to freak out. There is no one home with me, and the house is big, 5,700 square feet, so I'm thinking, okay, an intruder. Wait, pause. To be clear, I'm telling myself it was an intruder because if it was not, then I had a larger problem. I remember getting my shotgun and clearing my house room by room and finding nothing. No one is there. Again, when I say now that I was being targeted intentionally, I am saying this in hindsight. During that time period, I had no clue what was going on. It was just overwhelming. I felt like I was going crazy, so much so that I decided not to tell my wife about what was going on. It was better in my mind that she not see me that way. You may be asking yourself, what do you mean? Well, frankly, like a crazy person who was losing his mind, seeing, hearing, and experiencing invisible things. This, what I call paranormal activity, goes on for over a year. Then all of a sudden, the real stuff kicks in. Pause right here. Let me say this. When you have been under a barrage of supernatural encounters and you finally detect something physical, it's a release. I know that doesn't make any sense to you, but imagine for a moment you're in my shoes. There is nothing to actually fight, nothing you can shoot, stab, or kill. It's just invisible forces. I had no clue when the physical activity started that things were only about to get worse, way worse. The first sighting, and to be clear, I had no clue what I was looking at in that moment, was a set of giant eyes. That morning I'd gone to the store, and on the way I dropped my wife and son off at her best friend's house for a play date. Well, I come home and I see that Indian again. This time, he is standing in the tree line looking at me. What stood out to me the most was the darkness in that area. Of course, there is shade in the trees as the leaves block out the sun, but this was different. It was more like a black void that he was standing inside of, and directly behind him was this set of eyes, just above his right shoulder in that darkness. He stood 7 feet tall, and these eyes were 10 feet in the air. All I saw were those eyes, and they were terrifying. This was the point where the eye shine started day and night, and this was the point where my wife started to take notice. She woke me up one night and said that she had gone downstairs to the kitchen to get a glass of water, and when she looked through the glass, there were giant eyes staring at her from the woods. Stop. Pause. This was, in a sense, refreshing to finally have her see something strange and weird, but at the same time I was perplexed. What did it mean? Why all of a sudden was my wife seeing this when all along she had seen nothing? This goes on for a month, us both seeing these eyes watching us day and night, and it gets to the point where I need answers. The footsteps, the Indian, the eyes, I needed to find something out about it, or find a way to deal with it. So I head up the road and start knocking on doors and talking to neighbors. The first person is a woman, Elizabeth, she told me to call her Liz, a sweet little black lady, 82 years old. Her husband died a few years prior, and her grandson was living with her. Looking at him, he seemed like the loser type, staying with grandma, stealing money out of her purse. We sit down and talk, and she tells me that she loved the new house and would have come down to introduce herself, but she has trouble getting around. We get to talking, and she lays it on hard, and next thing I know, Liz has me outside changing light bulbs on her floodlights. I came to her house to get information, and the woman put me to work. Nonetheless, I was happy to help, and that is when I noticed something that opened the door to what I really wanted to know. Liz had floodlights on the back side of her property, but they faced both the woods and her house. When I asked her about it, she said, "You will think I'm crazy." I tell her, "No, I won't. Try me. Why do you light up the woods?" Liz, and I quote her words, says, "There is an old evil in these woods, older than men, older than this town, this city, this nation. There are old spirits and old evils in these woods. My husband Frank was able to hold them off, but since he is gone, all that keeps them back is the lights. They hate that light on them." Imagine the scene. I'm standing there looking into this woman's eyes. You know how it is to look into the eyes of an elderly person. Their eyes tell a story. In her eyes, I saw pain, fear, but also this strength. Like iron or steel, like nothing was going to scare her. When I told her I think I have seen the evil you speak of and told her about the Indian, she laughed and said, "That's one of them ghosts, them spirits. They are just lost. They ain't gonna harm you. They will try and scare you, though." Liz goes on to explain to me that I can come back anytime I need to talk, but she might ask me to do some work because her grandson doesn't help much. When I ask her about the eye shine, her whole demeanor changes and she says, "Now that is the old evil." They come around to test the hearts of men. They tested Frank, tried him good. Every day and night they would come. Every day and night my Frank would meet them head on, showed them no fear even when they showed themselves to him. He never backed down, not once. As she is talking, her grandson interrupts and starts to talk over her, saying that his grandmother Liz was old and didn't know what she was talking about. Liz, quick as a whip, the words flew off her tongue like an arrow. "Shut your lazy ass down and shut up. If you knew what your grandfather faced, you would piss your pants, boy. Go inside." He looks angry, like he wanted to do something, but turns and walks into the house. As he is walking away, she says, "You're gonna find out what your grandfather dealt with when I'm dead and gone, and you are alone in this house. They will test you too. They're gonna test your manhood and your spirit. You just wait." She then turns to me and asks, "You got a Bible?" I say, "Yes, I have one." She says, "Start praying Psalms 91 every morning. Go outside and read it aloud. That will give you some peace for a while, but these things will show themselves to you. They have the right to try and make you afraid. Do you understand?" I'm looking at her, and I know I have a look of confusion on my face because I say, "No, I don't." She says, "You always have a choice who you're gonna fear in this life, son. Are you gonna fear God or something else?" Liz says, "I'm tired of standing. Can you help me back into the house?" I take her inside and help her sit down in the reclining chair. Then she says, "Come back anytime. I'm gonna take a little nap." I leave, and on the walk back home, the conversation plays over in my mind. Her words echoed, "They're gonna test you." Little did I know that test would come later that night.
I hope you have enjoyed part 1 of Dogman Buying Trouble. We will be back with part 2 of this epic Dogman tale tomorrow. Until then, thank you for swimming in the dark waters. If you want more epic content like this, go to www.iamdarkwaters.com. The price is $12 per month, and it's worth every dollar.